Hi and welcome to Stevie Snacks. My name is Anthony Stauffer and I'm going to be teaching something that I call the backdoor pattern today. The simplest explanation of the backdoor pattern is that it's a pattern of notes that repeats across all of the strings as you go up the fretboard, and it progressively takes you higher and higher on the fretboard. Now this lesson in and of itself probably is not going to make a whole lot of sense. I suggest that you watch some of my other lessons about the 5 blues boxes because otherwise this one's going to seem a little bit kind of out of place. But just to give you a little bit of background, when I taught my lessons on the 5 blues boxes, I wasn't teaching it, based on the traditional shapes or anything like that, and as a result, a lot of people were confused about why some of the boxes that I taught only used 3 strings when the standard blues shapes, they basically use all the strings. Well, my explanation for that is just simply that I see those traditional shapes as kind of outlining to you where you could play, but the boxes that I taught are more where you'll find yourself playing most of your licks. And for most people who watch my lessons, I teach mainly Stevie Ray Vaughan style. So that's kind of why the boxes were shaped the way that they were. But if you watch any of those lessons, and sometimes I'll talk about how there's this whole area on the bottom strings that I don't really touch on with any of those boxes. And the reason for that, I said, is because I have this thing called the backdoor pattern that kind of connects them. So that's what I'm going to be teaching today. This is the pattern that kind of connects the bottom of a lot of those boxes, and it's just something that I think is useful to know. And so without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, like most of my lessons, I'm tuned down half a step because I teach these primarily for people who want to learn Stevie Ray Vaughan style. So for the rest of you, you might want to try tuning down half a step before you get through this. I'm just going to go through all of my open strings here in case you want to tune down to where I'm at, starting on the low E string. Alright, so you can rewind the video and tune up to that if you want. Now I'm just going to go over a little bit of an explanation of what the backdoor pattern is and kind of where you can find it on the fretboard. So I'm going to be playing in the key of E flat here, and for me, since I'm tuned down half a step, that means that I'm kind of in the open tuning here. And that means that my one box, now if you watch the diagrams on the screen, even if you're new to this whole idea of the boxes that I teach, you'll be able to kind of catch where they're at. That puts box 1 down here. And box 2, what I call the Albert King box, would be right here. And then above that, the BB King box. Moving on up to box 4, the Clapton box. And then all the way at the top, box 5, the major root box, as I call it. So those are the 5 boxes that I teach. And if you notice, when I went through box 2, 3, and 4, I only teach those on the top couple of strings here, even though the actual shapes go all the way down to the bottom. But the thing is, I found that I didn't actually play a lot of licks down here. The fingering's just not right to do a lot of cool stuff down there. So I just kind of teach the boxes up here. Well, that leaves all this empty real estate down here that you can see from that I'm kind of highlighting on the diagram. And the way that I discovered that these are these strings down here are useful is in this thing that I call the backdoor pattern. So there's a couple of places on the fretboard that you can start the backdoor pattern, and the first one is in, whatever key you're in, wherever the root box is, just start it on the very bottom note of box 1. In this case, it's open because I'm in the open E flat tuning here. But the pattern simply goes like this. notes separated by a fret each, which is a whole step on one string. Then you take the middle note and move up a string and go two notes on this string. So this one is, these two notes are stacked right on top of the last two notes of the bottom string. Then we just move up one more string, just like we did before, but this time we go three notes again. And now we move up another string, go two. And because of the way that guitars are traditionally tuned, we can't just go straight up again. We've got to go up and shift a fret. But we go three, and then go up another string and go two. So we started all the way down here, and we ended up here by using this repeating three notes, two notes sequence. So, I mean, you can tell just by playing it, that kind of sounds like playing a scale. It's not a lick that you would put into a song or anything like that, but it's kind of a good exercise for building up, you know, speed. And I kind of play that sloppy, so that kind of defeats the purpose of using it as an example there. But anyway, so that's kind of the first place that you can start the backdoor pattern. Now I'm going to move on to one that might sound a little bit more familiar to especially Stevie Ray Vaughan fans. Alright, so the next place that you can use the backdoor pattern is if you see where we started it the first time, which is just on the lowest part of box 1 on the low string. Move up to that on that same string to the top of box 1. And I have that note highlighted on the diagram there. And let's just repeat that pattern again. Now again, we're in the key of E flat here. So let's play that pattern starting here. Now what sounds different between that and this? If you notice, in a lot of my lessons, I talk about the difference between kind of that minor blues aggressive sound, and more of the major scale sound. Well, the difference between those two ways of playing the backdoor pattern is that when you start on the root note of box 1 here, it takes you into box 3 here. And it fits in very well with kind of major scale type soloing. Well, when we start here, it fits a little bit better with Now, if you're a Jimi Hendrix fan or a Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, you might have picked up what I just did there, and that is that I played over the pattern that's used in the song Voodoo Child. So, let's look at the notes that I'm playing there. Now, it might just look like I'm playing some notes up here and then some notes down here, but they're all connected by the backdoor pattern. This became really, really evident to me when I was learning how to play kind of the Stevie Ray Vaughan cover version of this song. And at the end of the song, he does this thing. So when I learned how to play that riff, and I mean that's not obviously the best way you can play it there. It's a little bit sloppy, but point is that he plays it entirely. He plays it over that series of notes that I'm calling the backdoor pattern. So knowing that that pattern's there allows you to do some really cool stuff when you're going up and down the fretboard. So that was all played with what I'm kind of calling the minor version of the backdoor pattern. And again, that starts on the lowest string, on the bottom E string, at the top of box 1. Now, the only other place that I really use the backdoor pattern regularly is in another position up here closer to box 5. Now, in the extended version of box 5, I talked about how these notes down here are kind of auxiliary notes to box 5 because they allow you to slide into it. So that's just these notes right here. Well, let's see. What we have there is 2 notes, followed by 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, then 3. So it's very similar to the backdoor pattern, it's just that we're starting with 2 instead of 3. And what it does is it takes us up into box 5, which I teach as kind of a major scale box. And then it continues on up into box 1. But I taught box 1 as kind of a minor blues box. But in the extended version, I talked about how there's kind of a major box hidden inside of here. That involves kind of an auxiliary note up there. So it takes us through box 5, which I teach as a major box, and up into the major scale portion of box 1. So there again, there's that 2-3-2 kind of repeating pattern there. And I guess there's one other place that you could think to put it. Again, keeping with this idea that box 1 and box 5 are kind of identical. If you take box 1 and slide it down 3 frets, you know, it's like the pattern repeating in reverse at the bottom of box 1 here. Kind of switch from a minor scale sound to a major scale sound. Well, the same thing holds true if you take this backdoor pattern. If you think about that position associated with box 5, and you move it up 3 frets, so it takes us from right below box 1 through box 1 up into box 2. So there's that similar pattern again, repeated in just a different spot. So just to review, the 4 places that you can really kind of use this pattern in its basic form, starting at the very bottom of box 1. And that will kind of have a major scale sound to it. Slide it up 3 frets, and now you're making your way through the bottom strings up into box 4. And then again, you can start it right below box 5, but this time you're going to invert the 2 and a 3, and you're going to start with 2. And that's where you'll hear stuff like this. Like at the end of Lenny. then again, you can start it right below box 1. Although this is the note you'd probably start on, but this is kind of part of the pattern. So those are kind of the 4 places that this backdoor pattern kind of emerges, and that's kind of why I don't teach the other boxes as really using these strings, because when I really use these bottom strings, it's in the process of transitioning through a couple of different box positions on the fretboard. So anyway, that's the backdoor pattern. I'm pretty sure there are going to be questions about this, as there have been about most of the things that I've taught about these boxes, so feel free to leave comments over at steviesnacks.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave comments there. I try and keep up with it there. And for a short time, I'm not quite sure how long, but this lesson is going to be available in HD for free over at steviesnacks.com if you want to download the whole thing. Alright, well, until next time, thanks for watching.